We predicted tyres everywhere. I'm just seeing Michael Rutter's just arrived and he's got a full wet on the back here, but whether that'll stay there, I don't know. And they'll be wrapping it up pretty quick, the Michelin guys, I'm sure. And I just saw Tommy Hill's tyre before it went on. He had a cut slick, and I don't know, he's talking to Rob Mack right now, and they're deep in conversation, so I don't want to disturb them. Let's just see if they've got a decision. Have you guys decided where you're going to go yet in terms of tyres?
No. It's drying so fast, the track's so warm, and the blue sky's coming over now, and the track's drying so fast that within 4 laps will be a bone dry line, so it's going to be such a gamble early on. It's quite frightening. What
is the difference in terms of, you've got a cut slick on at the moment, which you could easily change, but how in terms of performance, does it compare to a slick?
Well, it's probably 2 or 3 seconds a lap, but it's just initially you need the initial grip to cope with the damp conditions and maybe to disperse a bit of water with a few cuts in the tyre. But as soon as you start pushing hard in the dry conditions, then that tyre then becomes too hot and starts to roll around and gets to be really dangerous. So it's a real balance of what you can cope with in the earliest part of the race.
Well, this is the experience that, of course, Tommy needs from you right now, so I'm going to let you get back to it.
Thanks a lot.
So obviously we don't want to disturb them there. John Reynolds is looking calm and quiet, but nothing too untoward there. He looks as though he's quite settled with what's going on. I'm trying to look out the corner of my eye as to who... well, there's Neil Tuxworth, Adrian Gorse. Adrian, what are your thoughts on what are you going to do? Because with Colin Edwards, you always made the right decisions. What about today?
I'm just wondering why I'm in England here.
What about your choice, though?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to dry up, isn't it? But it'll be a battle about how much you lose in the first few laps if you go with cut tyres, for the lack of confidence and the feeling until it does dry up. So it's going to be a bit of a gamble. The races here are fairly short, so maybe we'll go with something that gives us confidence in the early laps.
Okay, best of luck, and interesting. Well, one man certainly knows this place better than any. He lives down the road and he's probably come here, well, I don't know how many times, but what's the weather going to do, Neil?
I think it's going to stay dry now, actually. It's going to get dry during the race. That does make it difficult for the riders to start on slicks or wets, really. You're going to lose out if you start on slicks, and obviously as the race goes on wets, they're going to chew up. So it's a really difficult, probably the hardest conditions a rider can ride in, when it's neither one or the other.
Do you tend to wander around? I just saw Rob Mack having a wander around, seeing what everybody else is doing. Do you have a look at what everybody else is doing?
Not really. We just tend to make our own decision on how we feel, because at the end of the day, it's how our rider's comfortable. It doesn't really matter what the guys next to him are doing. We have to make the decision on how our rider and team feels, and that's all we can do, really, Jonathan.
Gut feeling, the temperature is going up, that it's going to stay dry and you go on a slick?
Yeah, it's been pretty dry most of the time. I don't know about going on a slick. That's a big gamble, but I certainly think it's going to stay dry, Jonathan. We're leaving it to the chief mechanics at the moment.
All right, best of luck to you. We just talked to Adrian Gorse, of course, who's chief mechanic of one of the Hondas, and let's talk over here. Simon over here from Dunlop is just having a quick chat, and he's deep in discussion. Simon, don't want to wander off, but obviously this is an important time. You're talking to the guys. What are you telling them?
Just trying to advise on the right tyres to use, into, rear, wet front, just asking the riders what the track's like.
What's generally the consensus? I'm looking at Dino's now coming off, and he looks as though he's got a cut front there.
Yeah, cut front, slick rear. Most of the riders have gone into front, into rear. A few have gone wet front as well.
Now, I hope you've given certainly Dino the right advice, because I've told Keith he's going to get on the podium, and I need the money.
I always try my hardest.
So it's going to be, but is anybody else going any differently? I mean, obviously it is a preference to the riders at this point.
There's just a lot of different combinations at the moment, what the riders think the track's going to be like. Just rider preference, basically.
Is this the gamble, though, for Dean? Because I can see out the corner of my eye, Yukio's got a cut slick on the back and a cut front, so it's a bit of a gamble?
Yes.
You could say that. Well, that says it all. So, Yukio, you can see, has got, now we look at Keo, he's got wet fronts, and I'm just looking at James. James has got a cut slick, James Hayden as well. So, very different. I'm looking further back. The Hawk Kawasaki's. Let's take a look at the front row, because they've now unveiled, which is what we needed to see. And now let's go right along back. We've got cut slick here on John Reynolds. We've got cut slick on Tommy Hill, as we predicted. But both, in fact, cut slick on the front of John Reynolds and a full wet, by the looks of things, on Tommy Hill's. Full wet on Michael Rutter. Interesting. And it looks as though he's got full wet on the front. Cut slick for Scott Smart, and the same on the front. So quite a lot of difference between the top riders in terms of their choice. Interestingly, Michael Rutter seeming to go with a more wet setup, despite the fact that his team manager says it's going to be dry. So, there you go. That's as close as we can get to it, guys, and quite a lot of difference. So, it's going to be interesting. Don't fancy your job right now.
I've got to tell you, Paul, I reckon Michael Rutter's sitting there at the moment thinking, what have I done? There was an opportunity here to do the business. Unless he has got some direct link to above those clouds, I don't know how he can guess that it's going to rain.
He'll be the rider who gets the most grip off the grid. There's going to be some wheel spinning going on here.
OK, then, they're under orders, and you were right. Straight off like a scolding cat goes Michael Rutter into turn one. This is a scary old turn when it's damp and all this lot spread out right across the track. Wait for it. Rutter! Just about from Yukio Kagayama, who forces it straight under Rutter. Take that, Michael! So there is a Suzuki man up into Charlie's. He's having nothing to do with the Honda. Biffs him up out of the way, and JR has gone right back at the moment. It's James Hayden in third place. Take another look at that. Up into Charlie's for the first time. He just makes sure he's on that dry line. Inch perfect, Yukio Kagayama. 3 abreast for second place. Scott Smart goes through just for the Yamaha, and then out a bit wide as they come out of park. The 2 Hondas though are back in 4th and 5th place at the moment. Scott Smart is in 2nd place, but Yukio Kagayama has cleared off.
Well, I mean, it's a fantastic start on a damp track, and there was no real dry line up into Charlie's one, and Yuki just laid the bike on its side anyway.
Commitment, he has it.
Yeah, very much so.
Or he needs committing, one or the other.
Both, I think, and, you know, John's mired back in the mid-pack, unfortunately. He's spun really bad, as Neil predicted, a couple of them might off the line, and John's on the wettest part of the track, right on the left there. So he's got work to do. The only good news for us is that Michael is clearly struggling. He's going to pick up the pace through here, but he's struggling at the moment.
Indeed, he's got, looks like John McGuinness that's right with him as well back there. So up over the mountain we come. Yukio Kagayama leads from Scott Smart, from James Hayden on the Virgin Mobile Yamaha, from Michael Rutter in 4th place. And Ryoichi Kiyanari was there as we come through Hall Bends as well, down towards the hairpin. We'll take a look at it. There is 3, Rutter from 44, John McGuinness, who Neil McKenzie said would go well here. Ryoichi Kiyanari's there as well on bike number 23. Then it's Tommy Hill on bike number 8. Down at Barn, I'll tell you what, this
it's drying out quickly as well. There's nowhere really where Michael Rutter can use his wet tyres and grab any time back, because it is drying out pretty quickly.
Man, we missed there number 5, the Monster Bob Ducati of Sean Emmett, who was one of the fastest guys in the wet warm-up session. Wonder what he's got on. Nobody's actually talked about too much. McGuinness is so smooth. John McGuinness, you can watch him all day long. He's got a lovely, smooth, fluid style.
And in fairness to the Hawk Kawasaki team, they've got the front of that Kawasaki biting so well, wet, dry, or anything. That bike is really handling well, and they've done a great job this year. Come on, John. John's alongside Dean.
Getting more rain, I'm told, Paul. That'll be bad news as far as you're concerned. You saw the 2 HM Plant Hondas arguing with each other there in front of John Reynolds. Oh, there's a Yamaha that's sliding up. It looks like he's gone under Kiyanari, is that?
Underneath Rutter, I think that was.
It was under. There's Emmett. Emmett trying to get under Kiyanari. Emmett trying to get under Kiyanari at the gooseneck. That'll be interesting as well. So Rutter has slipped back behind, and there's a bit of rain on our camera there. I'll tell you what, we're speculating like mad from here in the commentary position. I've never been in this for a long time.
Well, if that cloud opens up and the rain does come down, then...
Oh, Kiyanari, give us some more of that. Almost went off the circuit. Sean Emmett then just about gets the drive on the Monster Bob Ducati underneath him. Kiyanari, just like he was at Silverstone when he tested before round 1, showing us how to back it in. Scary. So through goes Emmett. Emmett is in 6th place now. Off the front is still Kageyama with the fastest lap of the race so far. 34 is a faller. That's Paul Brown on the ETI Ducati. So Paul Brown has crashed out, and to be honest, with the amount of track time he's had in the last 2 years, you might expect it. No experience at all on a superbike of modern day era in this kind of weather condition. 71, Yukio Kagayama on the Rizla Suzuki leads this race. This will make the old hospitality unit cheer when he goes around the Chris Curve, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, difficult day so far for Rizla Suzuki, and Yukio needs to point his Rizla Suzuki down the track and not worry about who's behind him. The boys will be giving him a pit board. They're more than capable of telling him the gap, and I hope he can just keep focused on staying consistent.
Oh, there it is. That says everything. Every picture tells a story. Michael Rutter made a mess of the tyre choice and put full wets in. It's too dry for full wets. Desperate situation. That's blown it today.
Well, for me, I'm not sure I'd have done that, because there is a few spots of rain, and if ever it did rain, he would have been in good shape. But he obviously thought he was just going to work his way backwards, go to the back of the field. But now he can't win.
I can't believe John Reynolds has given Michael Rutter every possible chance in this championship, and now Rutter and Honda have blown it. That sounds harsh, but they have blown it. They didn't go with the average popular choice. They put themselves on a strategy that left them out on a limb. They were gambling on rain arriving. We are in the UK. You can't predict weather here, whatever happens.
Yukio Kageyama gone faster than anyone else so far this weekend in damp conditions. That is incredible.
That is incredible, but that just is Yukio Kagayama. And who can argue with the fact he finished 3rd because the race was stopped in race 1, and he was all just sitting there waiting to barge his way by. And you can see the pace he's got, even when the track is damp. Kagayama has the fastest lap of the weekend so far.
But I think Scott's closed him down a touch. Yeah, Scott was a full second faster on that lap. So Yuki needs to stay focused, and Scott's doing the easy job here, which is chasing a rider on a damp track, whereas Yuki's having to be the rabbit and set the pace.
Scott Smart has the fastest lap and the lap record then now on lap 3, 1:34.174. Yukio, well...
And I've got to say, from Rizzo Suzuki point of view, JR's having a disastrous race. He was 8th across the stripe last time round, this time 9th with a 37.4. You know, that's a long way off the pace, and he's obviously tried to pass a couple of people and made a mistake off the dry line. That's the problem.
I just think JR's rattled at the moment with the way things have gone for him in race 1 today, and he's just not a happy bunny out there, and it needs absolutely supreme confidence. Somehow Yukio Kagayama manages to keep that momentum going, despite the fact that this track was the track that almost ruined his career, that almost finished his career, and in fact almost cost him his life, if the truth be known. So Yukio Kagayama, committed as ever. We're looking at Michael Rutter. Now, Michael Rutter isn't even on my board here at the moment. So Rutter has gone with a slick in the back now, and he must have, he's got a slick in the back, he must have done something with that front tyre, surely. He can't be still riding around on a full wet front tyre.
I think the front stayed in, Keith. I don't think there was time to swap the front. I'd be surprised if the front got changed.
Yeah, I suppose I'm thinking endurance racing rather than short circuit 18 lappers, aren't I really? There's just not the time there to change the tyre. There is Yukio Kagayama, and Scott Smart has closed him down a fraction at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see where they are. We're only on lap 4 of 18, and this track, barring any more rain, is going to get drier and drier. These two we know are on similar tyre setups. It's only the bikes that are different.
One thing I can tell you from the grid is that Dean Thomas took a punt as he could. Obviously, he's got nothing to lose, and he's on an inter front but a full slick rear. He's the only rider I saw with a full slick rear tyre, and he's on the back of Reynolds and going to be giving him a harder and harder time as this place dries out.
Kageyama actually grabbed a bit of time with Scott Smart. He got 0.2 of a second there on that last lap, so Yuki finding his feet and settling down.
But you can see how hard it is to pass. John had lots and lots of speed on Kianari down the straight there, but on the damp just couldn't do anything about it. And now Dean's nipped by, and JR is not maximising his chances with Rutter out of the race. He's back to 10th.
Well, if you thought we were getting excited over lap records a minute ago, of course, that was a slight mistake. The actual lap record is not been beaten at all. Number 6, well, dear me. Out he goes then. A disaster for Gary Mason. He was so looking forward to this race meeting this weekend and building on his confidence. Now then, 71, Yukio Kagayama is the fastest man out on the track, but of course it's 1:32s that he's doing, not 1:29. So it's not a lap record pace on a damp track, because that all stunned us when we saw that come up on our screen.
That was a pretty special lap.
Yeah, it was a special lap. Had us fooled, didn't it, for a moment or two?
But Yuki's finding his feet now. The sun shines out, the track's drying. Scott Smart's dropping off a little.
Just a fraction. Kagayama and Smart there in your picture at the moment as we come to Barn Corner, a treacherous little corner if ever there was one. Hayden is still 3rd, McGuinness is up to 4th, Plater thankfully is 5th, Emmett is in 6th place.
So that lap time is unbelievable considering how wet it is out the back. 31.7.
Yeah.
You know, that when we started testing here Friday morning, that was like a sensible target to get down to. And the track's wet, they're on intermediate tyres, and a race is a race. The guys are just opening the throttle harder and harder.
Quicker and quicker as it dries more and more. 1:31.705 now is the lap time from Yukio Kagayama, the fastest lap in race 2. James Buckingham in the Superbike Cup has retired at the pits as well. Obviously a tyre choice that wasn't correct for the conditions as well. So James Buckingham is out. He's had a miserable weekend so far, having crashed out of the Superbike Cup in the first race and now retired out of the second one. Down to Mansfield, Yukio Kagayama. This is going to be one of those kind of race studies, isn't it, for us? We're going to sit and watch in awe of Yukio Kagayama doing what he does absolutely best at a track that has cost him personally so dearly.
Absolutely, and I mean, I think the bravery just to come back to racing, let alone come back to a track like Cadwell Park that Neil always had concerns about when he was racing, but always got on and did the job superbly. And Neil didn't go through and experience anything like the one that Kageyama's been through, but in a damp track, using all the road, touching the white lines, just unbelievable.
And he looks so damn good, doesn't he, Yukio Kagayama? I mean, he's a great rider. No wonder that the British crowd have got behind the Japanese, just because he's spectacular and brave, and those are the things at the end of the day that endear a man to the race-going public.
And he's bonkers, and that always helps.
Well, that does help, of course, yeah.
We like mad.
1:30.8, just getting quicker lap after every lap he goes through the trap. He's getting quicker and quicker. 1:31.3 was Smart's time. 1:30.8, so half a second a lap quicker is Kagayama, and that is why he's easing away from second place man Smart. Hayden's still 3rd, McGuinness still 4th, Emmett still 5th. Glenn Richards in 6th place. Steve Plater has dropped to 7th. Dean Thomas 8th, John Reynolds in 9th place, Tommy Hill just behind him.
And at the moment, we still don't have Michael Rutter in the top 20.
Yukio! I tell you what, Paul Denning was about to speak then.
I'm not saying anything now.
He was about to speak then and he jumped out of the seat here. Take another look at this.
Round Chris's curve, you see the back end, he's still in a cut slick rear and an intermediate rear. You can see just where you need a lot of drive, a lot of grip. It wasn't there, and Yuki's thinking, he's doing dry times and expecting the bike to work like it will in a dry, but of course that rear tyre doesn't have anywhere near the grip of full slick does.
Well, that was the warning perhaps Yukio needed, not that he relies on too many things like that, but...
I'd just like to ask Paul, will that bike be on wet engine settings?
Yes, Eki, our Finnish electronics guy, will have detuned it in first, second and maybe even third gears for the exit of this corner bar, the exit onto the back straight, just to make the thing a little bit calmer. But as you just saw at Chris Curve, the thing's got still too much power for that cut slick rear.
So the mapping then tuned down just a fraction to cope with the tyre and conditions that we had at the start of this race. But of course, as the race winds on and it gets drier and drier around this track, both these guys are going to be asking more from it. We can only assume that Scott Smart has wound back the Kawasaki a little bit electronically as well.
Well, Yuki had 1.9 on the previous lap, but after that mistake, he's lost 0.3 of a second to Scott Smart.
Well, hardly. It's just such a tiny amount that he lost to Scott Smart, considering that was on one of the fast parts of the course where it's a little bit neat.
Well, you normally get one warning, and if you get away with it, you tend not to do the same thing again.
You said that, I didn't. Paul
Plater out of the race. Poor old Stevie out of the race.
Steve Plater retires. Well, it's been an abysmal time for this man, and he really comes from Woodhall Spa just down the road here. And Plater, I know, really wanted to be successful at Cadwell Park, but sometimes when you want it, that's just not enough. Clouts that thing on the curve there as he comes up the hill.
Yeah, that was a titanium spark off the Yoshimura silencer, and they don't like that. That's built with carbon and titanium, and too many more of those, and the bike won't be wearing it much longer.
Trouble is, he's probably not too aware of it. Will that be? Have you changed the suspension settings on this as well? Is it a fraction softer for this race, Paul?
Yeah, Stuart Johnson might well have just softened up a bit, give it a little bit more feel. Yuki has his bike very, very hard on the rear, and just it's a characteristic the way he has his bike, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a touch more supple front and rear, and that's possibly why, apart from the tyre situation that in Chris Curve, the bike was sitting down on the shock a little bit and just pushing the tyre sideways. But this lap, 30.4 again. There's a lot of riders in this race would be delighted to do that on slicks in sunny weather.
Well, really, this is getting to the point where a slick would now work fairly easily on most of the track. So those that have gone out on slick tyres, and there were one or two of them. I'm just trying to think of the ones that Jonathan Green came off down on the grid to see whether that paid off. I think Dean Thomas was on slicks at the Rio. Dean Thomas had a slick. He's up to 7th place now in front of John Reynolds. Reynolds is up to 8th place. Kieran Clark is 9th, and Glenn Richards apparently is on slicks as well, and he's in 5th place at the minute. So on lap 9, which is only a half distance, we might be, if these guys can actually use them. And I tell you what, you've already said it. I mean, Yukio Kagayama's turning times in with intermediates that really anybody on slicks would be proud of here at Cadwell Park. So it's going to be really down to those guys that have got the slicks fitted as to whether they can make the best of them.
Well, at the moment he's still going quicker and quicker each lap on the tyres he's got, so he hasn't used the best of them up yet, and then if he can get to halfway distance, then there's a good chance they'll go all the way. Rutter now just got him in 20th position. He's not that far in front of Yukio Kagayama here, but he is in 20th position and on the same lap. Yeah, there he is.
I'd have to say basically that both Rutter and JR, the championship protagonists, have had extremely poor races. Rutter more so than John, obviously, but John's back in 8th and doing 33s. He's on the same settings as Yuki, and you just wonder if he's got a problem or whether he's carrying an injury from the residue of destroying his Rizla Suzuki in the first race.
Is that an injury that you inflicted on him, Paul?
Yeah, right between the legs, but we'll go back to that.
Oh, Brogan out again, so Baywatch Brogan. Steve Brogan is out of his second ride today. The first one ended at Charlie's Corner. This one looks like pit lane. So Yukio Kagayama, we're looking down from Dickie's camera up on the top of our hoist. That's Michael Rutter moving out of the way there. Well, that is something I didn't expect to see this afternoon, I've got to tell you.
Yeah, I think the fact they didn't change the front, and as Paul said, they don't really have time to. It makes it.
Are you astounded that they went out with wet seats? I mean, I haven't ridden a motorcycle on a racetrack for a long time nowadays, but I've got to say that my auntie could have chosen the tyres better than Honda did.
Well, particularly after Neil Tuxworth, the local best team manager, said that it would be dry, and he is the man that can make that decision. But
oh, the guys took a risk. I mean, you do sometimes. Maybe Michael just thought, had a premonition or something, it was going to rain, and he thought, right, I'm sticking wets on, I'm going to win this thing by 2 laps or something. And but you know, it wasn't really like a good odds move, I have to say. And Yuki didn't even decide on the line. As soon as he came in from the wet practice, he was straight in, cut intermediate please, front and rear, and he made that decision. I think in terms of your frame of mind, it helps as well, because you know, whether it's a good or bad choice, you've decided that's the way forward, and you're going to know you're going to give it your best, and he's certainly doing that.
Well, the only thing I can put to both of you gentlemen here, because I still can't believe I'm sitting here gobsmacked that they went out with a full wet front rear, is that Michelin don't have the tyres.
Another fastest lap for Kageyama.
That is 0.04 of a second short of a 29, which is just not really on these conditions. I just, you know, he's got 3.2 seconds now. I hope the boys just give him board, and that Yuki just starts to knock it off a touch, but it's certainly not his style.
Oh, that's the end of the day then for Michael Runner. They have called it quits. Well, you gained 25 points, luckily, from John Reynolds' mistake in race 1. Unfortunately, JR is not in a position to repay you in race 2, because he's languishing at the moment, way down in 8th place. But all the same, damage limitation.
Well, he's in 8th place, and as I say, got the same settings on his Rizzler Suzuki as Yuki has on the one that's at the front. But Kieran Clark doing a very good job, R6 competitor from last year, actually closing up on John Reynolds. So we'll just hope from our point of view that John stays in front, but from Kieran's point of view, JR would be one hell of a scalp.
Glenn Richards has just gone up to 4th place, just taken Sean Emmett there on bike number 5, so Emmett is slipping back, and Richards, with those slicks in that we know he's got in the Hawk Kawasaki, is slowly moving himself forward. But let's have a look and see how far. Well, he's got 4 seconds up to Hayden. He's got a lot of work to do if he's going to catch James Hayden. He's got quite a long way to go in this race just yet.
We got some rain coming down there at the Gooseneck and the Mansfield section of the track,
which could make another bit of difference. Remember what I said before, they can stop this race still. It's I don't know what it's... Is it? Oh, hang on, is it started?
It's declared a wet race now.
Declared as a wet race. I suppose it would be, really. I'm talking out loud as usual. And
Kageyama's lap time there was 7/10 slower than the previous lap, so
it's obviously getting wet.
And so was Scott's, yeah. So they both knocked it off to the same degree. Be interesting to see what happens with Dean Thomas now. He's the only rider with full slick rear, and it was quite interesting that he hasn't really made any more potential of that tyre than the other guys have with cut slicks.
As we're looking at Glenn Richards making a pass on Sean Emmett, that's Stuart Hicken in the owner-manager of Hawk Kawasaki. He's going to be interested to see what the 75 bike there of...
I know Stuart's biggest concern in this race is Glenn Richards and his health. He just doesn't want him to make any mistakes, and he's still fairly fragile with his arm injury. He definitely doesn't want him to go down. I would say that would be his biggest concern.
Kageyama and Smart, 3.5 seconds between them, and another 17 seconds back to James Hayden in 3rd place, who is 3 seconds in front of Glenn Richards now. Sean Emmett is a further second back. Then it's Dean Thomas in 6th place, John McGuinness in 7th place, John Reynolds in 8th place, Kieran Clark in 9th place, and Tommy Hill in 10th, in front of Superbike Cup leading privateer James Ellison, who's Pirelli shot.
You'll note that Glenn is just hauling in James Hayden on the Yamaha hand-over fist, and simply that's because James has got a wet front, and you'll know as well as the people at home, you will not be able to push that wet front tyre through the fast corners on this track, anything like Glenn's able to do on the ZX10.
Yeah, that front wet tyre just walk around in the fast sections and pretty much make it impossible to carry any corner speed. Glenn Richards reeling them in, and now looking at a podium position. Fantastic comeback.
Yeah, what a comeback considering his injuries, his arm so badly injured earlier on in the year. And it must have been so hard for Glenn Richards to sit and watch Scott Smart winning races. On a bike, basically, that Glenn last year, most people last year would have said it was Glenn Richards that was going to be in Scott Smart's position this year. Scott Smart, well, he's ridden brilliantly this year, but you couldn't have guessed that he was going to do that, could you?
Not at all, no, but Scott Smart really impressed a lot of people, including myself this year. Always a talented rider, but the way he's approached it and the way he's worked with the team and the bike, it's just worked perfectly. And I feel if he does leave the team for any reason, it might not work quite as good, because he just fits in perfectly with that team and the new ZX10 Kawasaki.
Well, you never know what Paul Denning's up to. He must be looking for people to sign. Or
well, in many ways for me, sitting here and not having the tension of sort of being in the pit, being a little bit more impartial, I'd have to say that Scott is pretty much my rider of the year. To come from where he's come from, which is a position of not being ultra competitive and getting that first win under his belt and taking the right decisions every weekend and not throwing the thing up the road, he's done fantastically well. Here comes Glenn.
Glenn Richards up the inside of Mansfield then. No more can James Hayden hold on to that position. Glenn Richards goes into a podium position Well, that is a
James
fantastic...
is wide there, and that's purely because he can't brake and turn in on that wet front.
Oh, and it's spinning on the muck as well. Poor old James. You can see just how big that thing's cut on the front. Let's take another look at that, shall we? Coming down then, Glenn Richards. And he will have sucked James Hayden into this a little bit as well, wouldn't he? Because Glenn Richards is able to turn and brake at the same time on that slick. So much better than poor old James Hayden is.
Pretty much. See, James, he wants to brake at the same point as Glenn, but it's not happening. He's so lucky he didn't flip it on the grass there.
There are some ridiculous things happening at the front. Yuki has just done a 29 on 13 lap old inters on a damp track. That is not right.
Yukio Kagayama 129.9 then, the fastest lap on the last lap. Scott Smart 131.1 was his time, so well, Yuki over a second a lap faster than anybody else. It's a bit scary, really. Just goes to show the talent of the man, really, doesn't it?
I don't think we doubted that all year, and I think his
Yukio Kagayama. Dear me. That made you sit up again, Mr. Denning.
I'll tell you what, we just need in this championship pick the bike radio. It's just got to be an essential thing. It's used in F1 and stuff, and I would just love to be talking to that lad right now.
He's got a great feel though, hasn't he? I mean, he got it straight back under control once it all finished bouncing around.
Well, he does these riding style, gives him a safety margin. Yeah. Unfortunately, it caught him out of Croft, but there you can see he did go sideways, but he's already on top of the bike, had it picked up, and there wasn't really a problem, but it certainly doesn't stop your heart being in your mouth.
Barn corner. It's a wonder that Denning's got his own hair colour, really, isn't it?
Well, he hasn't.
But in fairness, you wouldn't choose to dye it ginger, would you?
That's very true. That's made everybody laugh.
True.
Strawberry blonde, as far as I'm concerned.
Yukio Kagayama, well, he may yet induce a change of hair colour. We'll wait and see. Who's that? We've got Kianari that he's catching now. So Kianari on the other HM Plant Honda. I wonder what tyres he had on. What a disaster it has been for HM Plant Honda today. In the end.
Well, it's amazing the difference the race makes. We were saying what a fantastic meeting they were having after the first one, but a little sprinkle of rain and it turns it all around.
Kageyama still leads by 5 seconds from Scott Smart now. He's increased it to 5.8 seconds in fact. Glenn Richards is 21 seconds further back in third place. Sean Emmett is another 2 seconds back on Richards. Dean Thomas, well, he's closing in on Emmett now. Dean Thomas could pinch that fourth place.
Who's gone missing? Someone's gone missing.
Hayden's gone right back. John Reynolds is up to 7th place.
Yeah, but who's fallen down or broken down? Because John wasn't close enough to pass anybody.
McGuinness has
slipped backwards. I think McGuinness is the one that's gone backwards. Yeah, so he's down to 9th now. So maybe JR. Oh, maybe John made a mistake somewhere and John Reynolds has managed to go by. Lap 15 of 18, soon to be lap 16 of 18.
Yuki nearly has 7 seconds now. He really just needs to bring it home.
Great style of Yukio Kagayama. He's another guy that you can watch all day long, isn't he, the way he rides a motorcycle. It's kind of aggressive but smooth, if that's a contradiction in terms, and I mean it to be, but... oh, here we go. Dean Thomas has caught Sean Emmett, so the two Ducati boys duking it out. And just in front of them...
Glenn Richards.
Glenn Richards, indeed. So what's happened there? Glenn Richards has just found himself... I'll have another look at that, see if it is Glenn. Yeah, it is Glenn Richards. I wonder if Glenn's had a moment somewhere as well.
No, Glenn's still holding 3rd place, but basically the two behind him are just going a bit quicker. Glenn was 31.6.
It was over 2 seconds last time round. It's 1.2 now, so Glenn Richards has been caught by these two. They've obviously upped their game, or should I say Emmett's upped his game because he's been chased by Dean Thomas on the Sendo Ducati, so... Monster Mob Ducati chased by Sendo Ducati with the Hawk Kawasaki in front of them. That is the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th places at the moment.
It's good to see that rain's gone away. No more spots of rain at the moment, and just 2 laps to go.
I'd say JR must have a fault with his Rizzler Suzuki, unfortunately, because Kieran Clark, who's passed him, is doing low 31s. John's in low 33s. It's 3 seconds off the pace. It doesn't matter how well or badly John is riding by his own standards. He's never that far off the front running pace.
Can't disagree with that as it happens at the moment. Otherwise, you know me, I would do. Kageyama still leading from Scott Smart, who's in a safe 2nd place. The whole point situation is going to be an interesting equation at the end of this. Lap 17 of 18, halfway round it. We're up into Hall Bends now. That is Glenn Richards on the 75 bike being caught hand over fist by Sean Emmett and Dean Thomas, who's pushing Emmett along, is all I can believe. Emmett obviously having a bit of a breather mid-race, and he's had the hurry up now, having been passed by Glenn Richards. If he don't have that hurry up, he's going to get passed by 12, Dean Thomas.
Well, it's that time of the year when these three guys, Glenn, Sean Emmett, Dean, they're all riding the jobs.
Just tell us, Paul, how many people have been in contact with you? You obviously don't have to name names, but how hot is your phone at this time of year?
It is a lot, but in fairness, all the riders are real mature guys. They know we're not going to be far in Yukio Kagayama if the Suzuki factory want to pay them to come back and do this job with us. And you know, we haven't done anything about riders yet for next year. Everyone's asking, but they're fairly realistic about their chances. And I'd like to think John Reynolds deserves either a shot at retaining or a shot at regaining the British Superbike Championship next year, irrespective of what happens towards the end of this.
He's not going to lose it on bad luck through what you might say here in commentary. You're keeping your options nicely open as far as that's concerned. Through the gooseneck then, this is the battle for third place. Glenn Richards on the 75 bike leads Emmett from Dean Bam Bam, as he's known. Thomas, and it looked like Dino was lining himself up for a bit of a sneak up the inside of Emmett there into the new chicane here at Cadwell.
This is either going to be good or bad for Glenn Richards. Glenn Richards has been closed in here, but these two could just mess each other up. Dean Thomas and Sean Emmett.
Well, maybe Glenn Richards' fitness is also not quite pin sharp at the moment, and that might just be taking him back into their...
He does say, he says his arm turns to jelly after 12 or 13 laps, and I reckon he's really struggling in left-handers now.
Got to say he's doing a mega job after what he's been through this year. You know, he's doing a great job to keep it on the island, but he's under a lot of pressure from those two Ducatis in this last lap.
Well, the leaders are already on their fastest lap. These guys are just about to start it. The yellow flag with the black cross means 1 lap to go. Kageyama leads from Smart, but this is the battle, and through has gone Sean Emmett. Emmett takes third, fourth goes to Dean Thomas. Glenn Richards just not strong enough to hang on this very closing stage now of this race. That's a shame for Glenn Richards. Podium would have been lovely, but not a chance of that because the two Ducatis have absolutely swamped by. Kageyama has a 7.5 second lead from Scott Smart, who is 22 seconds in front of this battle for third place.
I've got to say this is an emotional moment for Rizla Suzuki, and I think it will be for Yuki as well, because this, you know, not this place, because Cadwell Park's a track of love, but an unlucky accident here nearly cost him his life and nearly cost him his career. And,
in a year that really was a horrible year for him personally as well, with the Kato from Japan.
But check him out, he's going to win this race at Cadwell Park. I tell you, I wish I'd gone and put money on that. He would have got some pretty good odds.
Lining himself up for a wheelie, I feel. There we go. So lining himself up for a big wheelie over the line. Yukio Kagayama wins race 2 here, to the applause in the commentary position of Paul Denning and Neil Mackenzie, and of course myself. A great ride from him. Scott Smart has come through in second place. This is the battle for third, and Sean Emmett is making himself a wide old Sean Emmett at the hairpin there, making sure that Dean Thomas cannot get underneath him at the hairpin. Smart move from Emmett, and he comes to the line. There's no way that Dino's going to out-drag him to the line. Emmett gets third place then. The podium goes to Emmett. And that is the place where Yukio Kagayama gained all those injuries last year. He is having a good old burnout there on the track at the bottom of the mountain. Good on you, Yuki. Celebration time for Yukio Kagayama. A fantastic day here. Paul Denning, he was here, now he's there, congratulating his man. And well, Neil Mackenzie, as Maggie Smart looks on, that's of course Barry Sheen's sister, Scott Smart's mum, that's watching Yukio celebrate. I'll tell you what, that is quite emotional there from Yukio. You can see in his eyes. Well, as Yukio starts his celebration, and they're not over yet at the moment, let's take a look at what we've got. Versus Wolverhampton, that's on Sky Sports 1 at 7:30 p.m. Join us, of course, for that. Speedway this year has been great on Sky Sports also. But this man, Yukio Kagayama, as he casually takes his helmet off at the minute, I think that... well, it won't have sunk in just what he's achieved. He will, no doubt, remember those injuries that he got here last year. Scott Smart, the second place man behind him. And congratulations there from Paul Bird, the Monster Mob. And of course, they are the reigning champions as well. Giving congratulations to Yuki. Heartfelt congratulations from everybody here at Cadwell Park. Yukio Kagayama, the winner of race 2. There's not a man here that will deny him that pleasure. From all of us at Cadwell, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.